Thirdly, think radically about your life. Think radically about your life. And don't just think radically about your life, be radical about your life. We're trying to do the most difficult task in human existence. There's nothing more difficult than gaining enlightenment. There's nothing more difficult than going for refuge. You know, all these things, mountains people climb and, you know, all the incredibly clever things people do, they're nothing compared with the task of spiritual development. You know, you're in a way, you're going against the whole of nature in yourself. It's a really difficult thing to do. And you need every bit of support and help that you can get. And it's not a hobby. It's not a weekend game. It's not something you can just do, you know, when you feel like it, you know, when you've got an odd hour off or two. It's got to be the whole of your life. You're trying to shift yourself from the mundane to the transcendental. You're trying to shift the whole basis of your being from the mundane to the transcendental. It's got to occupy everything. Everything is up for grabs. Nothing is to be left, you know, unexamined, unradicalized. You cannot say, this is not part of it. This is not part of the game. You've asked for ordination. That means you are prepared to radicalize your life. Yes, everything has to be turned upside down. Everything has to be opened up. Well, we say there's no private life in the spiritual life, in the spiritual community. Every area of your life is open to questions, open to discussion. Not that, you know, that means that people are going to come along, you know, chipping you to pieces in an unpleasant and destructive way. But it should be possible to talk about every area of your life without any reactivity. If you recognize the radical nature of the transformation of the task that you've taken on, you'll be only too happy to have discussion about every area of life and to think really seriously about it. You know, and to grab the bull by the horns, or the cow by the udders, or whatever. You know, what the really big areas of life are, well, the family life for many of you. You know, and I know I'm not a very good person to talk about it because I haven't had one. Well, I did actually. I was brought up in a family. But, you know, I don't have a family now, and I don't want to underestimate the, you know, the difficulties and the opportunities that life has. I'm not saying that family life is per se inimical to spiritual life, but it's going to have to be a very difficult, different family life to the one that most people live in this world. It's going to have to be a very, very different one indeed. Yes, you've got responsibilities. You've even got perhaps positive relationships, but nonetheless, you know, the family itself mustn't be a refuge. It mustn't be something that you use as a sort of private area which is not susceptible of radicalization. We've got to build in this world, in this country, a new and radical family life, which is yes, does, you know, people's duty by their children, and you know, honours the other human beings involved, but which at the same time puts spiritual life first. Make no bones about it. We can't just go on with the old, ordinary, you know, family life that most people live. It's got to be radicalized. I don't know what that means. Each of you is going to have to find out for yourselves, and you're going to have to be pretty sort of thoroughgoing about it, because the family is has got such a momentum. It's, you know, well, God invented it many thousands of years ago, and He did it pretty well. He put a lot of thought into it, and you know, it's quite powerful. So you're going to have to you know, put quite a lot of effort into radicalizing it. I stress, I don't mean that you've got to give it up necessarily. And it may be that for some of you that is the only alternative, and I don't rule that out. But yes, you've got a lot of work to do perhaps before that comes, of just making sure that the family life works in a different way. Yes, you've got to make something positive of it as well, not just see it as a terrible drag and, you know, an awful sort of barrier to spiritual life. It's got to be made into something positive in itself. There must be positive relations within it, and you know, in that way, it should be brought within the orbit of your spiritual life. It's going to be very different. And you've got to make sure it doesn't stand in the way, that it doesn't come before everything else, because it's very easy for that to be at the centre of things, even though, you know, in your mind and in your lips, it's at the periphery and the three jewels are there. In reality, that's where you spend your life, and you've got to put a lot of work into that. Work life. Well, don't buy the American dream. It's the British dream too, but we just haven't got enough energy to get it on. It's the British nightmare. Well, Banti made this point on Friday, didn't he? That you need leisure for spiritual life. If you haven't got leisure, you can't really have the opportunity to experience the spiritual life. You can't even begin to, because you're just on the grindstone all the time. So again, I don't know what this means, but you're going to have to radicalise work life too. You're going to have to, I think, work as little as you have to. And you obviously all going to have to work. And I know that that American life is very all-embracing and that you have to bring in quite a lot of money. But, don't work any more than you have to. And think about your needs and try to limit them as much as you can, so that you've got the leisure and opportunity to put time into spiritual life. And again, I know that it's very difficult. I know that some of you have got big demands and debts and people who rely on you. I'm not at all suggesting that anybody who's not anybody who's putting effort into work is not going for refuge. But, you're going to have to really think it through and radicalise it. I know some of you have done this. I mean, I think that old X here is an example, in stepping off the academic treadmill, escalator. And, he seems to have got himself pretty well sorted out. And be fulfilling his responsibilities whilst using the work situation very positively. So, you are going to have to radicalise it. It can't be just the normal American dream. We can't just have a sort of bourgeois Buddhist order. I even think this is a danger within our order in Britain. Moksha Priya was telling me that Banti was telling the ladies that, yes, he thought that, that the movement was in danger of becoming rather staid. In the early days, we were a bunch of hippies, and we really experimented a lot. Oh yeah, we experimented, and put myself on. I'll reminisce later.
You guys got all the fun experience.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it doesn't have to be over. We shouldn't just be settling down into middle age, and becoming middle-aged, middle-class and muddled, thoroughly sedate. There should be something really rather dangerous about the Western Buddhist Order. You should feel when you meet a member of the Western Buddhist Order that this man is really living in the wilderness, so to speak. You can almost see the bear's head on his head. Oh, wait a minute, what was that image? Oh yeah, yes, I got it. Anyway, yes, you should see. That's a rather wild kind of unconventional person. I think that's our chief danger, actually, is just settling down and just becoming, part of the American way of life. We should be something really rather different, or the English way of life, which is much more sedate and much less comfortable, but in a way even more settled. We shouldn't just fit in like that. We should be a bit awkward, a bit dangerous, a bit unusual, and rather challenging. I think it'd be a great shame if people were sort of comfortable with the FWBO. I rather like the fact that people find us a bit difficult. I'd prefer it if everybody really responded, but, I think that actually the best, in view of the attitude, that the angle people are coming from, it's much better that they're a bit shook up by us and, they feel a bit threatened and undermined and so forth. I think this is wonderful. And I'm just terrified that one day we're going to be accepted and part of the establishment. Once that happens, we've already just settled down. We just become part of the American dream or the British nightmare or whatever it is. Yes, I think it's good that we're controversial. Good that we've got all these awkward issues like, the single-sex principle and, all those sort of things that, you wince when you hear people find out about them. And, that Banti's made these rather challenging remarks about, anyway, things we won't mention. I think it's wonderful because it just means we can't settle down. So really, please, radicalise the lot. Don't let's just be bourgeois and just part of the same old thing. I didn't join this outfit to be a vicar, a Buddhist vicar. Right. You don't know what a vicar means. You haven't, lived in England. And I'm sure that an American pastor is but a pale reflection of the orthodoxy and staidness of an English vicar. I joined this order to turn the world upside down, to set it on fire. I don't want to ordain anybody who's just going to settle down and just be part of the ordinary world. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to be thoroughly awkward and difficult and uncomfortable. And I'm not very good at it because I'm English. But it doesn't mean reject it all, absolutely. But it means look at it from another angle and, don't accept it on its own terms. Look at it all from the point of view of the spiritual life. Radicalise it. Don't look at it from the world's perspective. We need to create a new world, and you're the pioneers here. You're having to create a new and radical way of life in the belly of the beast, and you're going to have to, find a new kind of family life which does justice to the responsibilities that are involved and is positive in itself, but doesn't just sort of fall into the old dream and doesn't just sort of go along with cultural assumptions which don't work anyway. I mean, you have the highest divorce rate in the universe here, don't you? Actually, I think we do in England. And a new way of work that just doesn't sort of mean joining the professional game and selling yourself to the company and selling yourself to the professional ladder. What kind of a spiritual life are you going to have for that? Well, what you can do is you can put it off until you're 65 and retire. You know what happens then. You come to the point where you've retired and you've got your pension, and you just drop dead because you haven't got any energy now to pursue the spiritual life. You've got to get on with it now. You've got to get on with it now. You've got not a moment to lose. Spiritual life demands every ounce of energy. You cannot have more than is absolutely necessary going into other things. So we need to produce, we need to develop amongst us, and it's going to take years, hundreds of years, to develop a new society, a real new society. But each of you must be doing it in your own lives, really radicalising your lives.